up on Mount Sinai, and there he has encountered God. And he comes down from the mountain, and he is radiating. His face is shining with glory. He's not even aware of it, but the people are, and it's so intense that they ask him to veil his face. Of course, they didn't have sunglasses back then. Then in Luke, Jesus takes the disciples up onto the mountain. And though the story is told also in Mark and Matthew, it's a little different here in Luke. Mark and Matthew really focus on the fact that the body of Jesus is transfigured. But Luke kind of tells the story more from the perspective of the disciples, that they see the appearance of Jesus to change. They perceive something new. They see differently. And then they see Elijah and Moses, and they hear this voice. But notice in the story, it's all kind of surrounded by this cloud of unknowing, that they're not quite sure what has happened in this mystical experience. They don't fully grasp it and understand it, but they have some sense that something is new and different. And even Peter kind of gets it wrong. He's a little confused as to what he's supposed to do. These two stories about the mountaintop and the light and the glory and the seeing differently and the change. Well, this weekend, Michael and I went away for Valentine's Day. We went down to Quartz Mountain and stayed at the lodge and had a really nice time. And yesterday, in the gorgeous weather, we hiked up various of the peaks and had a really fantastic time. And later I was telling him that, given that I've spent all week on these texts about mountaintop mystical experiences, I was, kind of waiting for that to happen yesterday. And he said, well, I guess it's okay if you go ahead and tell them that instead of the mystical experience, I had a panic attack. And so I noticed he's not here yet. So he may have started to skip my telegram. He's working on the cinema roll. So I'm sure hopefully they'll be here by the late. That's an inside joke. But anyway, we had a great weekend. No mountaintop mystical experience. But we are living, I think, through a time in human history when the way we see and experience each other is changing. One commentator I read this week said that it's the dematerialization of personality. That through digital communications and wireless networks and social networks online, that we are entering a phase in which our relationships are often not physical. They are not a direct one-on-one encounter with each other. That we even have these sorts of personalities that we live out completely apart from our actual physical bodies. And the great changes that this is bringing about to communication and to human life and to the sorts of relationships that we have. And of course there's good and bad in this. I was having lunch with Mary Frances a few weeks ago before heading over to the Zell Library at OU to do some research for a paper I'm delivering at the philosophy department there in a couple of weeks. And she just got this look on her face that, Mary Frances can say, they don't even have a card catalog anymore. I could just see that for her there was, this kind of sentimentality, this loss of the actual adventure that used to be involved in research, that, the sight and the sound and the touch and probably particularly the smell, because there is nothing like a musty old stack of books in a library. But the good thing is, of course, that you had to go to a library to even have access to, the accumulated knowledge of humankind. Michael and I were also talking this week about how smartphones have just changed our lives. That now your access to the accumulated knowledge of humanity you can carry in your pocket. So there's good and bad in this revolution we're living through. The French president, Nicolas Sarkozy, gave a speech a couple of weeks ago in which he was talking about the financial crisis. He said that he thinks part of the problem is because capitalism had gotten away from being concerned about real people and their real lives as citizens and as workers, and that we had gotten into these kind of ethereal investments that weren't rooted in any kind of reality. And the world economy needed to get back to being concerned with real people. So there's good and bad in this revolution. And I'm not some kind of Luddite, that Christianity does not stand against this sort of time. In fact, it kind of moves boldly into these new mediums and new forms of communication and community and relationships. And there's a spirituality to it. It emphasizes the sense of that we're all connected. And you can have these wonderful relationships with people in other countries and continents and that we didn't used to be able to have and get such knowledge and information. But at its base, Christianity is really not a spirituality. We are an incarnational theology. We believe in bodies, in the physical, in the material. We even believe that the fullest revelation of the divine came in a human person, an actual historical person who lived a real life. And those of us particularly who are within the kind of liberation vein of Christian thought really believe that people's eyes need to be opened and the community needs to be changed to take aware of actual physical existence of real persons, of those people in the slums in Latin America, or the real burdens that women encounter, or someone suffering with malaria or HIV in Africa must endure, or gay people who just simply want to love someone of the same gender. We call for the rest of human community to see that, to acknowledge those lives, to understand that, and therefore then lead to change. At Vision and Mission Task Force meeting last week, Ann Scott, who is one of our newest congregants, spoke passionately about what she sees as the purpose and the mission of this congregation. She said, we are bridge builders. And what she explained that to mean is that we are kind of telling the rest of Christianity, other people of faith, and really all of humanity, to take notice, to see something, to understand that we are Christians, that we too are welcome at the table. And so as our congregation goes through this time of change, and the anxieties that can come from that, one thing we need to keep in mind is that we are and have always been change agents. We are hoping for change. And through this time, I would call for us to be true to ourselves, to our mission, to our purpose. That we want to help other people to see something new. And therefore, change our society. To understand that all of us are children of God. That we are all welcome just the way we are. Let us pray.